Okay, what if I told you that almost everything we've been taught about success is, well, completely backward? Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the actual architecture of triumph, resilience, and growth. We live in this hyper-fast world that constantly bombards us with a super narrow, highly curated definition of success. But we're going to completely reconstruct that from the ground up, using our source material. We're moving entirely away from the superficial metrics and focusing on the actual, literal building blocks of a triumphant life. Because let's be real, chasing the wrong definition of success, that's just a one-way ticket to burnout.
So we are constantly sold this ridiculous myth, right? The idea that success is basically just a math equation involving a Lamborghini and a certain number of commas in your bank account. It's the luxury cars, the massive estates, the endless accumulation of stuff. But the reality we see in the research today flips this entirely on its head. True success is actually deeply rooted in three completely different things: your resilience, your personal growth, and the positive impact you create around you. Don't get me wrong, wealth can absolutely be a byproduct, but it's not the foundation. True triumph is really about who you become in the process of building something valuable, not just what you happen to buy along the way.
Section 1. Rethinking True Success.
You know, when we look at massive global brands today, it's so easy to just assume they were destined for greatness from day one. But let's look at the actual reality behind Colonel Sanders and KFC. He didn't start this thing as some young, well-funded tech bro. He was in his 60s. He was living off a meager Social Security check. He literally drove across the country, sleeping in his car, and faced an astonishing 1,009 rejections before someone finally said yes to his franchise model. I mean, think about that. 1,009 no's. He built an empire from the absolute ground up, proving that immense struggles and crushing adversity are actually the forge for success. He didn't just get lucky. He simply maintained an absolutely unwavering commitment to his vision and let those failures refine his approach.
Section 2. The Anatomy of Success. Core Pillars.
So when you break down the lives of people who actually reach their goals, they all rely on a very specific anatomy of success. And the first of these foundational pillars is resilience. Think of resilience like a psychological shock absorber. When the road gets unbelievably rocky, and let's face it, it always does, resilience is what allows you to take the hit without completely breaking an axle. But how do you actually build that? Well, it really comes down to a shift in your internal monologue. When a resilient person faces a massive rejection, they don't say, "I am a failure." They say, "Okay, this specific attempt didn't work." It's an objective observation. It's not a personal indictment. And that crucial separation is exactly what ensures a failure doesn't extinguish your drive to keep pushing forward.
Now, that brings us to the second pillar, continuous learning. This is the mechanism where you transform every supposed dead end into vital data. Imagine a founder, right? They launch a new software product aimed at teenagers, and it completely flops with that demographic. A non-learner just throws in the towel, but a continuous learner, they look at the analytics and realize, hey, teenagers might hate it, but local accountants are inexplicably using it every single day. Instead of hitting a brick wall, the continuous learner pivots, adapts the software for those accountants, and builds a massive business. By treating setbacks as lessons and extracting that data, you ensure that no effort is ever truly wasted. The obstacle literally becomes the path.
And finally, we have consistency. It is the simple, yet profoundly difficult act of just showing up and taking dedicated action every single day. We live in an era of immediate gratification, right? Our brains are wired to expect a dopamine hit the absolute second we put in any effort. We want the dramatic, overnight transformation. But real success? It is agonizingly unglamorous. It's waking up early when it's pouring rain outside. It's making the 10th cold call of the day when the first 9 people hung up on you. It's that quiet, boring dedication of putting one foot in front of the other, day in and day out, regardless of how unmotivated you might feel in that specific moment.
And this dynamic operates exactly like financial compound interest, just applied to your personal habits. In the short term, those tiny, consistent daily actions feel completely invisible. You might go to the gym for 2 weeks or work on a side hustle for a month and see absolutely zero tangible reward. It literally feels like you're getting nowhere. But as you push through that initial frustration and cross into the midterm and eventually the long-term horizons, that daily effort starts to snowball. The growth suddenly goes exponential. And that leads to those undeniable massive achievements that look like overnight success to anyone who just wasn't paying attention to your years of quiet consistency.
If you really want to conceptualize why this struggle is mandatory, our source material highlights a fantastic narrative from the YouTube channel Words of Wisdom. They share this classic story of a man who finds a butterfly struggling to emerge from its cocoon. Hoping to help, the man takes a pair of scissors and carefully snips the cocoon open so the butterfly can just slip out easily. But instead of flying, the butterfly just crawls around with a swollen body and shriveled wings and eventually dies. What the man didn't understand was that the intense, agonizing struggle to push through the tiny opening of the cocoon was actually nature's way of forcing fluid from the butterfly's body into its wings so it could fly. The friction and the struggle, they weren't in the way of success, they were the biological prerequisite for it. And your struggles are doing the exact same thing to your potential.
Section 3. Learning from everyday founders.
This actually leads us to a massive societal blind spot. We are heavily conditioned to only celebrate the absolute top fraction of a percent. We put the tech moguls, the industry titans, and the so-called unicorns on the covers of all our magazines. And it creates this subconscious benchmark that implies your story only truly matters if it ends with a fleet of private jets and a multinational conglomerate. So we have to actively ask ourselves, is the only valid success story one that ends with becoming a global billionaire?
The answer to that is absolutely not. No way! Every day, grassroots founders achieve incredible things just by tuning into what their immediate market actually needs. Imagine a local founder who notices that regional farmers are throwing away perfectly good produce just because of broken local supply chains. Without a single dollar of Silicon Valley venture capital, they build a regional logistics business that connects those farmers directly to local restaurants. It's not flashy, it's not some global tech platform, but it's an incredibly lucrative, deeply impactful business built simply by identifying a genuine, real-world problem and diligently working to solve it. They utilize resilience and learning to carve out a phenomenal success story right in their own backyard.
To see these exact mechanics in action, the source material points us to some phenomenal deep dive resources that really extract the juice from these journeys. For instance, the ground-up journeys cataloged by the Better India reveal a really fascinating common trait. These highly successful grassroots founders possess this hyper-local focus. They understand the specific cultural and infrastructural pain points of their immediate communities way better than any outsider ever could. On the flip side, Harvard Business School Online takes a more clinical look at the mechanics of scaling. They teach that the real secret sauce isn't just having a unique vision, but systematically building standard operating procedures around that vision. That way, it can operate and scale efficiently without the founder having to micromanage every single tiny detail. Section 4. Your path to triumph. So we've completely shattered the myth that triumph is just about hoarding wealth, right? And we've reconstructed it around the reality of resilience, continuous learning, and compounding consistency. We've seen how the struggle is literally the very thing that gives you wings. So I want to leave you with this final provocative thought to apply to your own life today. What real-world problem are you tackling right now? And more importantly, are you actively using these 3 pillars: resilience to absorb the hits, continuous learning to extract data from your failures, and consistency to compound your daily efforts to guarantee your own success? The blueprint for true triumph isn't a secret. It's a choice. So how will you build yours?